because the business that we were working on for so many years just collapsed. I think taking email in-house doesn't make sense because it requires multiple seats inside your organization to make it work. I think the core competencies need to be kept in-house because essentially you are a sales and marketing company. And if you don't have the IP internally to sell and market your products, then I don't believe you have any value or worth, unless you have some amazing, unique, patented product, which 99.9% of ecom businesses don't. And we should do, over $100 million.
Matt, tell us who you are, what you do. Tell us about Qure.
Yeah, so I'm currently the co-founder and CEO of Qure Skincare. We're a D2C skincare brand. We launched, I think it was almost about 5 years ago, on track to do 9 figures this year in revenue. I started with my sister and also have an e-commerce coaching community where I coach ecom founders.
Love that. So 5 years in, bootstrapped, you're on track for 9 figures this year. The business has evolved from a single product to multiple products. You're a big proponent of focus. How do you end up with essentially 4 business or 4 categories at once?
Yeah, I think early on we wanted to expand horizontally in order to get additional scale. We found that we had an acquisition model that would make sense against multiple product categories. And we wanted to create an ecosystem in terms of our brand, in terms of products and all the solutions that we solved. Because we believe that, the secret to good skin is a protocol. It's not just one product that's going to change the game. So we're trying to create a whole ecosystem that really transformed people's skin. And that was kind of the thesis behind the brand. So that's why we went, wide early, maybe a bit too early, to be honest. But I think, that's what separates our brand from a lot of others, because of how wide our product range is, and not just how wide it is, but also the quality of the products in each of those categories. And it allows us to spend more on acquisition because we have gone a bit wider.
Okay. Yeah, you also talk about products that are meant for acquisition, products that's meant for AOV, and products that are meant for LTV. How do you think about your product mix today and how that's going to evolve going forward?
Yeah, so I think you do have certain products that are amazing for certain channels. And that's the way you have to think of it. So you have certain products that might be great for Meta. You have certain products that might be great for Amazon. And you have to really take that approach to win on those channels, because the unit economics of the price positioning matters a lot. And also the margin profiles. So we try and be very intentional that we create certain products based on certain channels and certain use cases. Some might be just to upsell people in the cart, additional AOV, movements. Some might be for LTV, like a cleanser. A cleanser where you have little margin, low repeat, low replenishment rate is not really a great acquisition product, but it's great for, LTV. And then some certain products that we're going to retail with, we wouldn't advertise on D2C because the margin profile is too low. So I think being really intentional about which products you're choosing for what channels really makes a lot of sense for the brand.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect. Now, Qure started out with one product in the at the kickoff, at the early days, and just a couple years later. So we first started working together when Qure was just an initial product and a vision. We built the foundational flows as a one-off project, and then we came back on when the business has transformed with revenue. What happened in between? What have you learned and discovered in that journey between 2020, 2021, and 2023 before microinfusion came in?
Yeah, I think that we started with the LED face mask, which we created a distinct product using our distinct Pentagon framework. And we had a lot of traction, but we clearly understood that our biggest skill sets internally in terms of my team, because we have a media buying agency, was in Facebook. And that product wasn't, a Facebook first product. So we struggled to market it as well as we could in terms of the skill sets we possessed internally. And we had to go out and find a new product that we could utilize the Meta engine to advertise and grow our brand with. So that's where we went on search for another product that had a lower AOV and something with a new unique mechanism that we could advertise to the public.
Gotcha. You're constantly testing your assumptions and you're evolving the business at the same pace as you're kind of uncovering new ideas and new realizations. Tell me about that mindset and how that plays out in your day to day.
It's like a mantra that I almost hold in my own mind, is to consistently question my assumptions, because in the past I've been caught having certain assumptions that I acquired from maybe one conversation or one person that told me something, and it created a massive blind spot to me in terms of where the business could go. And a lot of those assumptions were probably inaccurate or false, and it was based on certain context that wasn't applicable to our business. And that cost me probably millions of dollars in the past. So at the moment, any assumption we might have in terms of a constraint that's stopping us from growing, I really try and double down and double click on that and see what's the root cause of believing that assumption, and see if that's actually valid or true for us or not.
Beautiful. Matt, why do you choose to work with Chronos in the early days back in 2020?
Yeah,
if you recall.
Yeah, I believe we chose to work with you because we first and foremost trusted you. I think we worked together on a couple of clients, and our interaction was always one that we believed what you said. And I think you came from a very honest approach, in particular from agency. And I think when the founders are more involved in the business, this is kind of what happens. And I felt like yourself and Lewis were more involved in day-to-day activities, which gave us more confidence that if you guys took on our account, that the same like love and attention to detail would be shared. Because at any time where an agency gets to a certain scale and the founders are no longer involved, I feel like a level of quality drops. And I never felt that with you guys working in conjunction with other brands. And that's what gave us a sense of security that we could trust what you guys were saying and doing, because you're in the weeds every day and you're actually working accounts, you're getting your hands dirty. And I think that's what really pushes over the edge to give you guys a go.
Love that. And years later, what kept our relationship going beyond that initial impression, that initial assumptions?
Yeah, I think our relationship kept going was because yourself, Lewis, and the team was always willing to change based on how our business was changing. We'd have different requirements every single year because our business would go in different directions or we had a different focus. And you guys were always flexible and nimble to alter based on what was best for our business, not so much what was best maybe for your agency at the time, which was great, in terms of the level of work needed. If we needed you guys to do extra things based on certain moments, it was never like, oh, let me sit here and let me charge you extra for that, or let me, worry about every dollar and cent. It was more around the relationship and your guys' best interest to make sure Qure grew. I think that's, what kept us still here 10 years later, and still having great results for you.
I love that. What does that feel like in and you've worked with agencies. How does that feel like working with Chronos versus?
I think it just feels like what it feels like working with Chronos is that you're an extension of our team. It's almost like an internal resource, not an external resource. The amount of touch points we have, the level of communication, it really feels like you guys are very integrated into our business. And that's why it never really made sense for us to look elsewhere, because what benefits were we going to get trying to hire an internal team when we already felt like we had an internal team to date? And I think that's what was extremely beneficial for us.
Beautiful. Appreciate that. Now, let's talk about results. How much has Qure grown in the last 2-3 years? What are we expecting to do this year?
Yeah, so Qure has grown almost 80 to 100% each year over year. This year, year to date, we are about 70 to 80% up again, and we should do over $100 million. And that's where we're at today. We have big ambitions in the future. We are trying to build $1 billion brand. So things might even slow down before they get bigger as we try and restructure the company as we go into retail and stuff like that. But that's where we're at the moment.
Beautiful. Let's talk a little bit about channel-specific metrics. So email and SMS revenue growth over the last 6 months have grown 145%, 144%, roughly speaking. While subscriber list has grown by 5.7 times. So I'll ask you, what are the revenue from automated flows versus the channel as a whole, year-on-year growth. I'll ask you, what are some of the highlights of the retention channel? And you can just kind of spitball through those, if that's okay.
Yeah, so I think some of the big highlights for us was that, email and SMS is up over, triple digits, about 140% each year. And also, like, our big focus was to get more revenue from existing automated flows. That's up, over 75%. And then year-over-year growth in terms of returning customers is over 5x. I know we had a massive KPI for your team to focus on, returning subscribers or returning customers, not so much new ones. And I think you guys definitely delivered there.
Appreciate that. Okay, that's great. Now, quick pause. Everything Matt's describing here, we published them in full. And I mean the actual emails, the winning version sitting next to the one that beat it. The whole 7 email welcome flow, the pop-up test where we hit a discount instead of showing it, and it doubled our clicks. If you want to see what it actually looks like when it's built, it's on the site. Links below in the pinned comment and description box. Okay, a bit of a history, past, and then we'll talk about future, and we'll just close. So pretty easy. History. You talked about, because we've done a couple of podcasts, and I know of your story. When Matt, when you were, I think it was 25, this massive Australian chain went under, one of your biggest accounts, and it took millions with it. That was like almost everything that you had at the time. And you're super young. You lost it all, and I'd say that would be probably the worst thing that most people would say would have been that happened to them. What was it like at that time, and how has that shaped your mindset today in business?
I mean, at the time, obviously it was a bit of a scary time. There was a lot of uncertainty in the air because the business that I've been working on for so many years just collapsed. But at the same time, I fed this narrative to myself that this meant I was going to be ultra successful, because I convinced myself that every single, entrepreneur had massive success, had to have this massive failure and blunder to add to their, hero journey or hero story. Because, life's not what you look at. Sorry, life's not what you see, it's what you look at. So I kept looking towards a certain reframe that would encourage me to move forward and push past it. And I ultimately just looked at it as a sign of opportunity, that I had to diversify and move out of the retail landscape and go more to DTC. And eventually, because of that, I was able to build brands like Qure, help other DTC brands like the Woody and stuff like that. So I think it was a great pivotal moment for me just to move to DTC, which I never would have unless I had that loss.
Love that. Now, going forward, does that make you any? Is there still like PTSD from that episode?
No, definitely not. No.
How do you move past that scar tissue?
I mean, just building enough evidence in yourself. I have enough wins post that era to rewrite the narrative that I had previously. I think it's as simple as that. I think it's as simple as that.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So Qure's on track to becoming a $1 billion brand. What does that mean for you beyond the number, beyond the money?
Probably that I'm good enough at business. For me, it's more of a sport. It's not about the money. And my pride or self-worth is obviously judged on how good I can perform and how good I am against the market. And the $1 billion valuation or a company is just really a trophy at the end of the day. A trophy that in business I am this good. And that's probably what means more to me than the financial aspect of it. Because I think business is a sport. And that's the way I kind of view it these days. And I think that's why I have a lot more enjoyment, a lot more fun in it, because I'm treating it like a sport.
Love that. And also, you've started coaching other entrepreneurs who are, I would argue, going through similar journeys as you are, and making the same mistakes as you were like years ago. And I can tell you find a lot of joy in that, because I'm also coaching the community. I see what's being built. I think it's awesome. Lots of folks are actually truly changing their lives because of it. What is the what's the vision for that community?
The vision for that community is to make it the biggest community in the world for e-commerce. You know, it's built for impact, not for profit. And I believe we have the knowledge, the resources, and the community to do that. I need to work out a way how to increase my distribution, which I'm working on ways to partner with other people. But I really want to build a community where everyone is winning, everyone has the support that they need. If they have a question, the answer is in the community. Because I spend so much money on different coaches and consultants all my whole life. You know what I mean? Trying to understand where to go to, what to ask. And I would have loved this community was around 10 years ago when I started, because it would have helped me dramatically. So I'm trying to build something for my past self, essentially.
Love that. Now, final question for brand owners and CMOs thinking about working with Chronos, on being on the fence. What will you say to them? And most likely, for context, the first conversation we'll have with a new prospect is a free audit.
Yeah, I think if you're thinking about working with Chronos, it's like a no-brainer. Why? Because just pure incremental profit and revenue to your business. I think taking email in-house doesn't make sense because it requires multiple seats inside your organization to make it work. And I think that you won't be able to have the level of talent that Chronos would have and the level of intelligence Chronos would have, because they have, you know, oversight over many different accounts, what's working, what's not. And as an e-commerce business, you know, the retention side is purely just an incremental play. I don't think it's a needle mover. And I think as a founder, you should be focusing on the things that are going to actually propel your business forward 10x. Retention is not one of them. And if retention is one of them, then it should be out of your space and outsourced if possible, because you can apply that focus to what probably means more in your business.
Beautiful. Any final words for folks who might be listening and thinking about e-commerce and building and the whole 9 yards?
Do the work to identify what the one constraint is in your e-commerce business, and then spend all your waking hours of the day solving that constraint and utilizing the team's resource to help you solve that constraint. Do one constraint at a time, have a lot of focus, because you are in a competitive landscape. A lot of you are selling a commodity product. And if you're selling a commodity product, that means you're a sales and marketing company, and your ability to win or survive is your ability to sell and market the product better than your competitors. So if you're incrementally 1% better than your competitors at whatever it might be, at Meta, at YouTube, at influencer, you're going to get exponential returns. That requires a deeper level of focus than probably you're currently utilizing. Love it.
Okay. Cool. One last one. I think this might be just a kind of a hook thing. You often say that you hate agencies. Agencies generally just a terrible business model. It sucks. Yeah. Don't work with agencies. Could you repeat that in your own words?
Yeah, I believe, back to the point I just said, I believe that you should work with agencies to take over the core functions of your business. And if you're a sales and marketing company and your livelihood is based on your ability to compete against other people because your product's the same as everyone else's, and you're outsourcing things like your creative strategy or, you know, the Facebook media buying, the high leverage points in your business to an agency, then what are you? What IP do you have inside of your business? How do you expect to win? And that's what I don't like, and I'm not for. I think the core competencies need to keep kept in-house, because essentially you are a sales and marketing company. And if you don't have the IP internally to sell and market your products, then I don't believe you have any value or worth, unless you have some amazing, unique, patented product, which 99.9% of e-com businesses don't.